Hello everybody and welcome back to CuriousChaos. You guys can call me Crimson, and in today's video, we'll be continuing our journey on the planet of Maizarre and exploring some more grass-type Fakemon from my fan region based in space called the Revlar Region, or I guess more appropriately, the Revlar system. I apologize for how long it's been since my last upload. This has been quite an eventful month and these Fakemon took me way longer to create than I expected, so I hope you guys can forgive me. There are more things behind the scenes that I'm working on that I'll be rolling out in the future, which I'm sure you guys will enjoy. This will be the last video on the planet of Maizarre, and then we'll be moving towards the planet of water. And I'm really excited to get to that planet. But for now, I have some announcements to make and some questions to answer. First off, I'll answer a couple of the most popular questions I've been receiving. Question number 1. Will there be any new types added to the region? No. The reason being that if we were to add a type like space, galaxy, celestial, astral, or whatever type you want to call it, it would just sort of become the space equivalent to the normal type, because that type could arguably be given to every mon in the Revlar decks, and also usually official Pokemon with space theming get covered by the psychic typing. So I don't know, it's just not as innovative to include it in our opinion. Same goes to typings like light and sound type. They're good ideas, but they're just not a good fit. And this has been something the team and I have been over time and time again, so yeah, no new typings unfortunately. Second question is, what will be the gimmick for Revlar? And to that I say, you'll have to wait and find out. It'll be revealed down the line throughout the videos, so not wanting to spoil anything, I'll let you guys find out on your own. And finally for the announcement. Unfortunately, this is not good news as you guys are probably expecting. But sadly, one of the Revlar Fakemon will be getting scrapped, and that is the Cycrop line. I know, a lot of people surprisingly like this creepy and goofy line, which I didn't think would be the case. I thought it'd be too weird for people to like, but man was I wrong. However, due to unforeseen circumstances that I do not wish to disclose, we've decided to scrap the design, and we hope you guys can respect our decision. Again, sorry to everyone who liked this Fakemon, and to those who I saw in the comments who added Cycrop to their team. But, to make it up to you guys, I'm giving you all 4 new lines in this video, as opposed to the usual 3. So, I hope you enjoy them all. Without further ado, let's meet the rest of the Maizarre grass types. One of the ideas suggested in my Discord server was the idea of making a Fakemon based on the Galaxy Flower, suggested by Discord user Topaz, and I honestly couldn't believe I hadn't thought of this before. It's such a self-explanatory concept, a flower that holds a galaxy within its petals. I wanted to make this into a 2-stage line, similar to the Sunflora line, with a seed being the first stage. So we decided to make a star-shaped seed, taking inspiration from the star-shaped fruit for its interesting shape, giving it star eyes to represent its desire to fly through the cosmos just like its evolution. Meet Kepling, the starseed Pokemon, the name coming from helmet from the French Kepi, Kepler, and sapling. Its dex entry reads, they waddle around with no fear because of their strong exterior, but will run like the wind if an Egg-o-Peck is near. It's mono grass in the first stage with the abilities Natural Cure and Tangled Feet, which is super funny when you look at its little leaf legs. And finally, Bulletproof for its hidden ability. Alright, let's take a look at what this seed will sprout into. There were multiple scrap designs before making a complete switch to what it ultimately turns into, starting from a small pixie, to a kimono flower-wearing ninja, to a shell-riding flower-crowned king, back to a shy fairy with a droopy flower covering the face, until finally getting a full overhaul and becoming a strange alien-like flower from inspirations of squids and even atmospheric jellyfish. The vision for this Fakemon is to be a native sprite from Maizarre, who guides lost trainers to shelter or even to hidden treasures. It looks pretty big from this pose, but it's actually really small, and would majority of the time be seen from the top-down view, getting mistaken for an average flower, until it suddenly flies up to the trainer's face to greet them. And I wanted to show its little face in the sprite art, so I ended up with this perspective for the pose, which I think looks great, and was also just a very fun perspective to work with. Meet Nebuloom, the Galaxy Flower Pokemon, from Nebula and Bloom. Its dex entry states, trainers who were in distress reported seeing large groups of Nebuloom working in unison, and shining the stars on their petals in coordination to make signs for the trainer to follow to safety. Nebuloom appropriately gains the fairy typing and gains the ability Flower Veil, and the hidden ability Misty Surge, which we can definitely imagine a burst of pink dust taking over when this Pokemon enters the battle. Also, something interesting I found out was that the ability Misty Surge in Spanish and Italian is Nebulogenesis and Nebulogenici respectively, and this just ties in the ability perfectly with Nebuloom. What are your thoughts on the Kepling line? I'm pretty happy with how it finally turned out, and I hope you guys feel the same way about it. Let me know if it would be something you'd consider for your team. Nebuloom is pretty awesome, so I might just add it to my own team. But of course, we've got more Fakemon to discover, and the next one we'll meet is a pretty odd single stage. Let's not waste any more time. Okay, if you thought the Nebuloom line had way too many beta designs, you are sorely mistaken. This Pokemon took me almost 10 hours to complete, just because of how many twists and turns this design took. This mon is based on crop circles, and the idea of aliens being responsible for their strange and precise patterns. For your sake, I'll only show the time lapse from where I finally got the right design down. But it originally was going to be a weird alien with only an upper half of her body, sitting on a disc of some sort of labyrinth made of hedges that resemble crop circles, because I wanted to visually incorporate the actual concept of crop circles into its design, but in the end, the design was way too complicated for a Pokemon, and I ended up deciding it could just have a big alien brain look like corn to represent this, and just like the Nebuloom design, I love how it turned out. Meet Maizarre, the crop circle Pokemon. From maize, the Latin word for corn, maze as in labyrinth like corn mazes, bizarre, and quasar. Its dex entry reads, Maizarre often head out in small groups to farms on Earth. Trainers speculate that they are guilty of stealing corn and even believe them to be the result of unexplainable and intricate designs left in crop fields. Maizarre is grass and psychic and can levitate with the hidden ability Seed Sower, which is an ability introduced to Gen 9 with Arboliva. It turns the ground into grassy terrain when the Pokemon is hit by an attack, and we imagine this being the result of corn kernels falling everywhere when it gets hit. Its shiny is based on purple corn, but also based on Cell from Dragon Ball since it has that weird V-shaped head, and is also just an alien really. This Fakemon also isn't really as big as it would appear. I envision this mon being similar to that of the Peahemoth line in stature, using their size to their advantage as to not be spotted by humans during their missions. These tricky fellows can hide in the fields, disguising and blending themselves into the corn stalks. What are your thoughts on Maizarre? The idea of a crop circle inspired grass type was such a clever idea, and I hope I did it justice. I do think this Pokemon looks really strong. I can definitely see it putting its enemy in a mental maze with its psychic powers. Let me know how I did on Maizarre and if it's a Pokemon you'd add to your team. Now we'll take a look at a 3-stage line that I think a handful of you will enjoy. I was looking through more plants with names that have connection to space, and that's when I came across the Moonwort plant. It's called this because of the crescent-shaped leaves, and I thought this would be a fun concept to work with, as well as challenging, because quite honestly, I didn't know if I would be able to pull this off, but I wanted to turn this into some sort of bug type. The typing will be represented a lot more in the next stages, but for now, I decided to make the warts on the plant be 3 heads gathered under one big crescent leaf, like if they're all trying to huddle under an umbrella during a heavy storm. Meet Peawee, the moonbug Pokemon. From peas, the word Peawee, and we like a group of people. Its dex entry says, Peawee spend most of their day searching for and hiding under bigger leaves because their own leaf is too small for them. Regardless, they always make a great team. As I mentioned, it is a bug type apart from grass, and its shiny is white as a reference to the moon, but we'll have more symbolism in the next 2 stages. Let's see what those stages are. This is the original idea I had for the Pokemon when I first saw the plant. From the picture, it looks like the leaves form a shell with layers, and I instantly thought of an Isoquad. And since it had multiple warts in the center, I imagined a sort of phalanx line, working together to appear bigger than they really are. So, each head, or wart, or pea, would have a set of arms it would use as legs and walk as one big unit. From the top view, it would just look like a big pill bug or a roly-poly of some sort. And the little guys know this. That's why their face changes from the worried look they had in the first stage to a smug smile since they have the comfort of being concealed, and they think they're all cool and strong now. Meet Isoquad. From Isopod, Quad, and Squad. Its dex entry states, Isoquad have perfected their walk in synchronization. If the pea at the front eats, the rest of the peas feel satisfied. The newcomer peas always grow to the back of the stem. The shiny now also bears a resemblance to skeletal structures, and their dark bodies are like that of Kabuto hiding under its shell. It has the appropriately named Leaf Guard and Battle Armor for its abilities, and for its hidden ability, it has Skill Link to land all multi-hitting moves. Alright, now let's see what Isoquad will evolve into. I instantly knew that I wanted to turn Isoquad into a very long millipede, similar to the Arthropleura of the Carboniferous era to look like a scary beast. It's time for a quick science segment with Crimson. Bugs in the Carboniferous period were extraordinarily larger than the bugs we see now. The reason for this was because of the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere. During that era, there was an abundance of trees, ferns, moss, and green in general, and all of those plants were converting carbon dioxide into oxygen like they do today. The only difference is that we have microbes that break down and decompose these trees, pumping out carbon dioxide again, and this way, we have a balanced amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen. But in the Carboniferous period, those microbes didn't exist, and so the trees were non-stop producing oxygen, and this allowed for bugs to achieve sizes that would make them look like aliens. And this is why the grass centipede is so big. The planet of Mycelia is a very Earth-like planet, as I've mentioned before, but I imagine it doesn't share the exact same traits as Earth, like having a higher level of oxygen. And of course, Mycelia would have an abundance of green since humans haven't taken over the land just yet, and when they do, they'll destroy ecosystems in nature, as we humans, for some reason, always tend to do. That concludes the science segment with Crimson. Let's see the decks for this Pokemon. Meet Peahemoth from P and Behemoth. Its dex entry says, Peahemoth remember the struggle of searching for shelter as younglings. Now they've made it their life's duty to be the protector and shelter for all the little guys of the ecosystem. While working on this video, I realized that this Pokemon shares quite the amount of similarities with Millimarch from Fruipyart's Paleon region, both being plant-like Arthropleura with leaf plates. But I think their personalities and designs are different enough for them to be their own distinguished characters. And by the way, if you haven't watched any of Fruipyart's stuff, oh man, you're seriously missing out. He's finishing up his prehistoric inspired region and will be starting a new one soon, and you guys definitely want to be there when it starts. The link for his channel will be in the description, so I seriously recommend paying him a visit as soon as this video is over. What are your thoughts on the Peawee line? This is the second bug type we've introduced to Revlar so far. So if Insectolite wasn't really your cup of tea, maybe this goofy line does it for you. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Now then, I feel bad for having to scrap this Cycrop line, so to make it up to you, I'm giving you all our first Revlarian Cross-Gen Evo, for a Pokemon that deserves more love and has only recently received love in the form of a model update in main series games. And that's basically it. So let's take a look. I'll say this right now. Most of the regionals and Cross-Gen Evos we'll be adding to Revlar are Pokemon that either canonically have space in their lore, or even Pokemon that we can imagine being in space for one reason or another, like maybe a Sunflora because of the whole sun thing. A Revlarian Cross-Gen Evo could be like a real sun or something. I don't know, that's just an example, but I limited the pool of Pokemon to choose from to this criteria because if not, we could just end up adding any Pokemon we want and give it some sort of cosmic space effect just because it would look cool, and I don't want that for Revlar. It feels lazy to me, and I'd much rather have a regional for a boring Pokemon with a nice concept, as opposed to make a space, I don't know, what's a popular Pokemon? Space Charizard, because that would be cool, you know? So, I hope that makes sense, and I hope you guys can agree with me. But with that being said, the first Revlarian Cross-Gen Evo will break the very rule I just explained. Hey, but to my defense, Tropius is awesome, and really deserves this. And, we weren't just going to leave it at that. We did want to give it a nice concept too, so we imagined that the scientists on the space station took on an experiment to see how a Pokemon that produced food would react in a new extraterrestrial environment. So they brought a couple Tropius to Mycelia and began spectating the process. Remember how I said Mycelia's atmosphere would have a higher level of oxygen? Well, this worked out very well for Tropius, because these higher levels of oxygen made it humongous, made it produce way more fruit, and it even turned it into a different species of fruit. Why? Some of Tropius' dex entries state that it only started to grow its fruit from its neck because of how much it loved and consumed said fruit. But as you probably guessed, this planet has all sorts of new unidentified produce, and means Tropius had to swap to a new favorite, and just like that, bing boom bop, Tropius now produces native Mycelia fruit, which is also based on red bananas. Meet Monstropical, from Monster and Tropical. Unfortunately, it loses its awesome flying type and swaps it to ground, because it can't fly anymore of just how huge it is. Maybe it can still float around in the open space or something, but the ground type might make a bit more sense after its dex entry. Monstropical bury themselves into the ground to sleep. This lets it absorb vital nutrients and water from the soil, but also allows other Pokemon and human to climb up onto it to harvest some fruit for themselves. It gains the hidden ability Upheaval, which removes all terrain effects and hazards upon entering the battle. Its shiny isn't really based on anything. We could have gone with original Tropius colors or even shiny Tropius colors, but in the end, members from my Discord server all agreed a new shiny would be funner, so there we go. Also, special thanks to ArcAges for conceptualizing this design. Arc is one of the biggest contributors to the Revlar region, working behind the scenes, assisting me with designs and concepts, so do me a big favor and check out his socials that I've linked for you in the description, and please show him some much deserved love. What do you guys think of our first Revlarian Cross-Gen Evo? Is Monstropical a Pokemon you'd add to your team? There will be more Cross-Gen Evos to come, and you can bet that they're going to be very, very cool. Well, these are the rest of the Pokemon from Mycelia. After taking a look at them all, are any of them worthy to join your team? I know, we've got a lot of grass-type Pokemon, and some of you even commented about going full mono grass for your teams, but don't worry, we'll be heading off to the water planet in the next couple of videos. Also, I think now's a good time to clarify that these planets won't just be full of one type. I'm just grouping typings together for video simplicity, but the planet of Mycelia will be host to a variety of Pokemon, with some that won't even be revealed till later videos on other planets. So, don't let the videos confuse you on how Revlar will work. One day I'll make a video dedicated to the whole map and lore for Revlar. But until then, it's been a pleasure to be able to present these Fakemon today, and I hope you liked at least one of them. And if you didn't like any of them, bully me in the comments or something, I don't know. That's it for me, guys. I'll throw up some Revlar fan art on the screen for you guys to enjoy, and if you'd like to submit your own fan art, you can do so by submitting them in my Discord server or via DM on Instagram, which are both linked in the description. Alright guys, until next time.